Hello everybody, I'm Steve and welcome to Green Side Up on this fine Sunday. I've been doing a bit of harvesting this last few days. Just show you the results of that and then we'll move on and do some other things. So I've been taking up some onions and there is the sum total of my Zebrunne shallots. They were awful this year, couldn't get them to germinate, just had angst with them. And this lot are multi-sown, just normal white onions, and some multi-sown red onions in that batch. And this lot here is my long Red Florence variety. It's an heirloom variety, and there are a few big ones in there along the front that were planted singly. The rest were multi-sown as a trial. Haven't come out quite as big as I had expected, but I think next year I could do a little bit better and I have a plan in place for them. But all is not lost. These are going to be great in things like casseroles through the winter. Whole onion, half a dozen of them in their casserole, brilliant. So over the last fortnight or so I've been pulling out garlic and my elephant garlic. There was some in this bed, and at the far end was those long Red Florence onions. So that's all gone now, the bed is clear, and I've managed to get this squash in here. And this is ichikuri. Okay, so that's the first bed. The next beds, there were again multi-sown whites in here, elephant garlic. You can still see some of the bulbils on this soil there. Multi-sown white onions and red onions, garlic, they've all come up. And this bed above are the singly planted onions, and these are all bent over now to help them mature so that they'll store over winter. All the other onions you just saw on that other bed, they're all for kind of immediate use the next couple of months, and these are the ones that will store over winter. Now these are tremendous size. I've only got a small amount of reds, which are down here, and you can see the relative size of some of these. These are cracking onions, and the whites as well. You know, these are all good size onions. So yeah, you bend the stalks over, this stops the plant taking up any more moisture into the leaves, which makes them carry on growing. So as they start to flop over anyway, it's best just to bend them over, stop them growing, and start to allow them to not put so much moisture into the onion. And as these stalks sort of die off, go yellowish, or even dry and crinkly to brown, that's when you harvest them. And then you put them upside down with the stalks facing downwards for a couple of days, somewhere dry like in a greenhouse, or covered so they don't get wet, and mature them further. And when you actually string them up eventually to store them, the outside skins should be brown and crinkly dry. So that's where we are. But as I say, got these two beds clear now. These are ready now for replanting, and I've got some plants to go in them, so we'll get on with that now. So I'm going to put some kale plants in this bed. I've just divided it up into 4 sections because I've got 4 different types of kale, and I reckon I can get 5 plants with a nice bit of spacing around them in each section. So as I say, I've got 4 different types, and these are planted in the container-wise trays. We probably should have stayed in the trays a bit longer, but I'm keen to get them planted and get things moving on. So I mean, that's how they should look, you know, and it's wonderful. And this is the 28 dam tray, so I've got 28 kale plants. So I've got 2 types in here, and this one I think is black Tuscan, and then the next one along will be Kale Scarlet, so it'll go black, red, and I've got a Vates blue down there, and then a Dwarf green kale too. Be like a traffic light system, wouldn't it? So some people like to plant their kale early in the season. Nothing wrong with that at all. I prefer to do mine this time of the year simply because I prefer the leaves to be smaller and more tender. And I'll grow them here, and I'll also grow some in the polytunnel as well. So yeah, there'll be a few left to go in some of the other tunnels as well, and that'll spread my harvest. So the ones in the polytunnel will probably produce first, and these will come later towards the hungry gap, which is great. There we go. So that's black Tuscan. So this next one is Kale Scarlet, and again planting them late because I prefer that the leaves we eat are younger and tender, and I grow it en masse so it's easier to get a harvest through the winter. And the rest of these plants, they'll be planted, as I say, in the polytunnel. I'll give it a week and we'll go in and around the tomatoes in other beds in the tunnels. I'd say these probably could have done with a bit more growing on in these trays. But it is what it is. So there we go, that's Kale Scarlet. And these are now spares for the tunnel. And this one is Vates Blue. I'll put all the names in the description. If I don't, remind me, and I will. Look at that couch grass. And more. Yeah, so just chuck them in the ground, green side up. Gosh. And the last one going in down there is Dwarf green curled. So we've got green, blue, scarlet and the Tuscan black. And in this whole bed I'm putting in some purple sprouting broccoli. Again, another great plant for the hungry gap next year. It's a Brassica obviously, so you want to firm them in really well. And this bed's a little bit messed up, or mixed up I should say. Some of it is bone dry, some of it is drenched. So, well, not drenched, some of it's wet through nicely. So I'll have to address that. And get it. I'm going to soak it over the next couple of days. Let it get drenched through. And I'll go back to Spartan watering after that. I want the bed wet at the bottom as opposed to the top, so I'm just going to keep watering until it's soaked through and keep pressing these down. These need to be in firm because these will grow into big sails, and Yeah, they need good anchoring, and they also need some protection over them. So there we go, a load of onions harvested, more to come when those wither off. Beds emptied, prepared, planted with 4 different types of kale, 1 whole bed of purple sprout and broccoli. Covers roughly up. I've got to go and find the covers now. We'll get these covered up. So yeah, pretty proud and pleased with what I've done this last couple of days. But that's it for this video. Look after yourselves everyone, stay safe. I'll see you all very, very soon. Ta-ra now.